Right, we're back with another video, prospect breakdown, breaking down the draft picks that the Tennessee Titans selected. This time we're going to be talking about Kyle Phillips out of UCLA, fifth round selection for the Titans. So one of the first things that I noticed about Kyle Phillips was that he fits the pre-draft phenomenon of the slot receiver going up against a defender, making a move and making a play. And if you're not familiar, what I'm talking about is like just think about how viral Hunter Renfrow has been over the past year or two with his route running, and that's kind of what you see from Kyle Phillips, especially during this draft circuit. Is I think he was at the Shrine Bowl. I think that's the bowl that he was invited to, if I'm not mistaken, or the NFLPA. I don't think it was NFLPA, but maybe it was. It was either Shrine or the NFLPA, and he was just making plays and juking people out of their cleats, and that is always interesting to me because on average you're not going to have that much time to actually throw the receiver the ball. On average, there are occasions where you do, but then I always just find it just amazing how gifted these athletes are at getting open. But without further ado, I think that Kyle Phillips is a receiver in short form. Remember this: the good, the bad, and the ugly. In short form, I think he's a receiver that is going to come in and provide immediate reps as a returner. The guy averaged 22.6 yards per return last year for UCLA. And he is very decisive in getting to where he's going. That's what I like about him as a returner. He gets the ball, he makes his move, makes his cut, and gets immediately north and south and tries to get where he's going. And very similar as a receiver. Catches the ball, makes his move, and tries to get north and south as fast as possible. Obviously, he's going to be a slot receiver. I don't see much utility as an outside guy. I think the Tennessee Titans in general, the way that their system is structured, hasn't really highlighted slot receivers that much. So what you want them to do is get open and catch the ball. I think for slots, and sometimes J-Rob and John Robinson and Mike Vrabel, they break down the wide receiver position. They always talk about getting open and catching the ball. And I'm always like, yeah, that's essentially the job, but there's so much more to it, especially when you're a receiver that plays everywhere. But I think it's really simple and broken down like that for slots. It is essentially getting open and catching the ball based off of what you see and just settling in zones and making the play. I think Kyle Phillips had 13 drops throughout his career at UCLA. That is the same as Treylon Burks. So the Titans drafted two receivers who have 13 career drops. And what I'm looking for in that time frame is to be sub 10. So there is some concentration issues. There's probably for him that I've seen for him when he drops balls that get outside of his frame because he does have short arms. So, I saw Jim Nagy talk about, the lazy white wide receiver, the lazy white wide receiver comparisons. Like people always going to say, oh, Kyle Phillips, he's like Hunter Renfrow, or he's like Wes Welker, or he's like, Adam Humphries, right? It's easy to make that comparison. It's easy to make that comparison. But when I watched him, he was more like, Andrew Hawkins. I believe that was the guy that he played for the Browns. He's bigger than Andrew, but Andrew Hawkins, if you don't know him, he's black. He used to play for the Browns. That's who came to mind when I watched Kyle Phillips at first. And then there's another receiver that I always like that is slipping, that I'm thinking of. He's black too. He's black as well. I think he went to college at a Texas college. But I cannot think of who he reminds me of. But he's also black, and this isn't to be contrarian, but he just reminds me of that type of wide receiver. I think he went to Texas, but I will post it in the comments below when I can remember who it was. And just from like, especially when he has the ball in his hands as a returner, because you see how good he can be in the open field. But anyway, I just think he's a player that I don't see much. Like, I don't see in the 1,000-yard season. I'm going to be honest. I see a cluster of maybe 400 to 500-yard season careers, good special teams production and contribution. That's it. I just don't. If we're gonna say ceilings and floors, I think it's a low ceiling, but low floor. It's a bang bang play. It's tough for me because you talk about the draft pick before, Kyle. You talk about Chigoziem, Okonkwo, the same thing. It's a bang bang thing because one, you're fighting against or going against the success rate size requirement. Chig is undersized. Kyle is undersized by all accounts, even lengthwise. So it's gonna be bang bang when in terms of talking, and then average athletes. I will say Kyle Phillips had a phenomenal 10-yard split, if I recall, a 10-yard split. So that sudden burst in quickness, but his 40 was a 4.58. Chiggs was he's an okay athlete for that size. So it's bang bang. But I like the value because you're not going to get that great of value when you start to get on day 3. It's hard to find value, I should say. So interesting. It's going to be interesting to see. And, it's just an awesome process. Can't wait to see how these players make their own stories. Wish nothing but the best for them. I'm just an objective viewer giving my opinion.